Usual, because it's always people starting late, I'm going to start with questions. And if there is any first, really basics, because I mean, we took a break. We took a break the last week. And, anything that goes back to whatever very basic questions about the whole, the whole idea of a differentiation of the mind into five intelligences, and yeah, and this biology, corresponding biology. So if there is any question for the people that's right here right now, no one's waving their hands, so I'm going to start with the answering a question that was sent actually about the nature of we call ancestral, the ancestral issues, and so who are those ancestors, and can we include also as ancestral influence whatever it is that was before us in terms of social things, about work, about even the house, about what it is really. So I don't have the specificity of the question under my eyes right now, but in the general term, it's quite simple. Yes, we're talking here about the spiritual axis, and again, spiritual axis from water to fire is something we share. So it's crowded. There is a lot of things in there. And we call ancestral influence, we talk about water. And if you think of it, the biggest mass of water on Earth are the oceans, and the sea, the ocean, and all that water is connected. So think about the past. It's water. It means everything is connected from the past to create the present. So everything basically is included in there. Now, at the personal level, still like water, the biggest influence we have from our ancestors is whatever is closest to us. So first major influence, of course, is going to be the bloodline. So direct bloodline from parents and grandparents and the whole genealogical tree is going to have a stronger influence than something more remote, like the influence of a specific someone doing the same thing in our lives, but very remote, not being part of the bloodline, for example. But someone is involved in something we do because we like it, we resonate to that. So we're talking about, and a question was included, the people practicing the same spiritual practice or the same job or the same kind of work. We from the same what do you call lineage of teaching or lineage of knowledge. Yes, this is part, of course, of your lineage. So it's part of ancestral issues, but it depends how much you resonate with it. It's going to have much more influence. Sometimes there are some ancestors that you don't care about, of course. There's less influence. And so again, water is very complex because it's all connected, right? Even in the air, there's water, and it's vapors and stuff like that. So all those water molecules are eventually connected to create your environment around you right now. So in ancestral issues, again, what's important is to get to that place. We're going to talk more about this third booklet, which is about resonance. What is it, or who is it that resonates with your own pattern, with your own frequency? And that's because then you're in tune. And being in tune, you're going to be brought up to behave a certain way because you're following the tune. So I know it's kind of weird, but that's the way I would like you to start to get a perspective from. Instead of looking for something very mechanical and very specific in terms of what is it that influences me with that, how can I differentiate that part from what I call myself. Uh, and also the most important is the kind of control. Again, basic Qigong principle is that whatever you don't control controls you. So the more you can be aware and differentiate what controls what is you, what is not you, the better you are in control of your life. Or at least you have more specific choices instead of being a victim of what we call destiny. I couldn't help it. It couldn't be helped. Most of the time it's true, but again, we try to change that as much as we can. So in terms of, again, to finish answering that question about the ancestral issues, who are they? Well, all of the above. And what's most important for you is to connect with either what's closer to you, which is your direct bloodline. Of course, this could have a preponderant control over your behavior and your history, and the resonance, whatever you have, the resonance that you create in your own life by doing things you like. And that resonance is going to connect with the whole lineage of whatever it is that you're practicing that's resonating the same tune, basically. Okay, I hope that answered the questions. So if there is any other question that connects with that on that theme, to help you understand that better,
Yes.
Yeah.
Kathy was asking a question about this.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with the same issues my mother struggled with. Do these issues get lifted off my child's shoulders if I work through them successfully?
Absolutely. And also out of your mother's shoulders. It goes both directions. Yeah. That's water. Again, all the molecules are connected. Yeah. Okay.
Also a question.
Yes. Roll.
It's related to this this theme. So we have like it's an emotional trigger which is at the base of any pain or traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I broke it down to is information, right? So everything is like information. And can resonate stronger or less strong, and then we can have it in an individual level and also in a more collective
Yes.
level, and that collective level is can be like family, DNA or ancestral.
Yes.
And also like overall human collectiveness, what you just explained, like resonate to it. And I was wondering, so the information is carried by the water and the morphogenetic field of resonance.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how does it get in our individual structure via the overall human collectiveness?
Yes. So that's when the differentiation of the mind into the five intelligences gets useful. When we talk about the collective, we're talking about the spiritual axis from water to fire, and that, of course, has to be anchored into earth, which is your body. That's where the influence is coming from. When you talk about the personal, you're talking about the soul axis, which is from wood to metal or metal to wood. Anything from inside out, from the outside in. And that also is anchored in your body on earth. So that's the crossroad between your spirit and your soul. It's your body. That's the infrastructure of your existence. Your body right here, right now. So that's your inner earth. And from that inner earth, you're connected to the collective of the, not only of the past, of the ancestral issues and morphogenetic field, but also of the becoming into the future of the next generation. Does that answer the question? I'm not sure.
Yes, it does, and it raises another question. It's like, okay, when does healing? When is it fulfilled? When does it? Because this can go on and on and on. If we are in this overall human collective,
yeah,
connected, then
well, that's called the evolution of human consciousness.
Right.
See, we talk about human consciousness as a collective, and this is amazing. I mean, you travel, you've been around, you talk to people all around the world, there is a resonance that's constant. There is a constant that can be even measured. I'm sure it's so precise. Human consciousness is at the same level everywhere on the planet, anywhere you go. Of course, not everyone, but everyone interested, meaning again, it's about the resonance. There is a level of so-called cutting edge level of consciousness that appears everywhere at the same time. For example, I mean, I often take that example right now. What's going on is the raising of consciousness about women's issues, the need to support women, and the women that's been repressed all over the world culturally. That's now is not so much question. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about racism, the need to heal, and this is like a social disease, and we need to get over that thing, and it takes such a long time because there's such a big weight in our consciousness. But again, it's about critical mass. You get to raise the whole of consciousness. It takes a whole critical mass to bring it up, and eventually that brings everyone to be able to resonate at that level. But it takes work. It takes that evolution. So yes, there is a constant that's we call consciousness. That's the collective. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yes, I know that in psychology there is that term about about the collective, about the individual, especially with Carl Jung. That really, but I believe from the Taoist perspective, you have a more precise description of this that allowed us to really work out at a more precise level, and be able, because the whole idea is to be able to develop practices that allow us to evolve at the personal level and contribute to that collective evolution of consciousness. Does that work? Okay. Anything else?
Anna asks, can your personal healing affect siblings?
Absolutely. Yes, because you're very closely connected. And I have examples, I have examples through my whole life of, especially when I work, people bring their kids, very young kids, for treatments. I work very little on the kids, and I spend most of the time on the parents, especially on the parent that carries the pattern of tension, of pattern, of there is a pathological pattern or so. And as soon as the parent gets better, it's reflected instantly into the kid. And the reverse is true. I work on people, and they report. I mean, I don't create it. I'm just repeating, what I've been told from my clients. That as they get better, and they see their parent change, and they can believe it. And they say, "Wow, all of a sudden my mother changed." And do anything, she didn't do anything. It's just they start to think differently or feel differently, just because you worked out something in yourself that's been passed down. Maybe you don't know how many generations.
How about brothers and sisters?
Same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. In my experience, brothers and sisters within the same family, they share different kinds of parental issues, and at the individual level, they're going to specialize in one part of those issues according to their capacities at the emotional level. And when one of the siblings is able to get over some kind of emotional issues, instantly, it's communicated to the rest of the family, actually, not only the siblings. Yeah.
Olivier, you want to speak?
Yes, I'm not sure to understand, Gilles, but you ask if we can share our experience. That's it.
I'm not understanding your question. What is the question?
Je vais te parler en français.
Oui, vas-y.
Est-ce que tu demandes de partager nos expériences par rapport à l'eau avec l'ancêtre, avec ce qui, par exemple, avec ma fille, ma mère, moi.
Yeah. And the question is?
La question est, c'est no, I don't have question. I just
basically that's what I'm saying, is that whatever you think is personal, often the emotional issues, you're not the first one that have that issue in your bloodline. And most of the time, the biggest and the heaviest part of the emotional issue we carry in ourselves has been passed down to us. So whenever we work out a piece of that issue, is reflected immediately through the whole lineage of people that resonate, of course, on that frequency.
That's true. It's I can confirm. Because,
okay, good. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good. Okay, that works. Wow, I think that in chat there's 7 questions here.
No, I think we're caught up on that.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. So let's get more into details about what we're getting into now with our third booklet. And you got basically the practice, and the practice on the practice. Let me see if I can share the screen with desktop. Let me see. I should have tried to do that, but anyway, I think you must have it anyway.
It's not working for you, the share?
I don't know. This kind of like, he always open system preferences. I don't want to open the system.
No, you don't want to.
Yes, the computer is doing its thing, Oh, here, sharing screen. Let me see if you can see this. Here we go. You see it?
No.
No, I am the only one to see it. So it's not worth it. And so basically, about the practice, about the 5 groups of activity to enhance each of the 5 intelligences. You're going to see that once I publish the whole thing, most important is the practice, right, to be able to differentiate. Now I don't know how to go back to the beyond screen. Do you see me on the screen? Am I on your screen? Okay, you're mute, David.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Because I don't see myself any longer. You just keep
We
the
see you.
screen. Okay, so that's good. I can just keep those things then. Okay, so basically, for us to be able to get to the next level, which is to be able to juggle with those 5 intelligences and be able to work with how they interact with each other, we need to really be able to differentiate those intelligence according to what we do. So let's start with the most common of the intelligence we know best, in our Western world, is rational thinking. And what is it that we do in our activities to use it and to develop it, which we kind of excel doing that, because most of the activity we have actually is to support this rational thinking. And about basically it's all about the calculation, a reflection. So if you have the list, you see that the different activities, that's what you've been doing basically your whole life. It's about learning. So remember that the wood intelligence is not present. That's the main thing. So any kind of mental activity that takes you out of who you are and how you feel and what's going on around you, that means you're thinking. And thinking, basically, anything you do that makes you get to that place means you're using the wood intelligence. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. The only wrong thing, again, is not to be aware of what you're doing. So the main thing, so like the list is quite simple. I mean, you cannot add so many things in there, but the most important is to understand the nature of intelligence. It's an intelligence that has to be basically so sophisticated because not being present, he has to develop his own universe. And that's called a language. So the language itself springs out of the rational thinking. So anything that's connected with the language, which is reading and writing mostly, and talking, be able to talk in a way that understood by others, with the grammar, and everything, that's involve rational thinking. So anything that requires thinking, you have to think before you can talk. You have to think about what word you're going to use, how you're going to combine those words and all that. So that takes taking yourself out of being present and be able to express in a way that's been reflected upon before the facts, before you can talk. So it is again the step that makes you step out of the present. So that's what we do all the time. And it's not only things that requires calculation and reflection and all that, it's also everything connected with entertainment. And the whole idea of entertainment means spending time, pastime, we say. We say we take a pastime, meaning that we don't really like to be present because we get bored, right? So we get involved into watching things. And if you on top of it, if you watch something to learn something, it's a double whammy for your wood intelligence, because then you get to that place of mental satisfaction, where you feel like you learn something, you know better, and all that, which is very good. So anything that exercises those capacities, and that every game involves calculations, especially. There's a in the Western world, we excel with that. We calculate. You play poker, for example. You play poker is like you have to calculate, and you lie, you cheat. All this involves the wood intelligence, and doing things by calculations. Any questions about that? Okay, so connecting also with the biology, with the body. What's involved? The thinking, rational thinking, involves into eye movements, into vision, into be able to, when someone is thinking, you talk to someone and you see the eyes moving, it means they're thinking about what you're talking about. If you talk to someone, you have people like looking at you like without moving like this, it means they didn't get it. You have to repeat. They blocked something in the past through. So the eyes, and the eyes are very indicative of the functioning of the brain, especially. And you're going to see that the eye movement are connected with brain activity. And that's very important to know, because, for example, I work with people with Alzheimer or with Parkinson's, and the work is very big because you have to rebuild the brain. And to be able to rebuild the brain, you can't just wish that your brain is grows and try to think about it. You have to do something physical, to get the neurons to build and to reconnect. And those are eyes exercises. So when you exercise, moving your eyes in different position, you allow the nerves through the energy coming out of your eyes to trigger functions in your brain. That's why eyes exercise are so important. The ability to move in all directions, and whenever you feel there is a place that your eyes have a hard time going, that connects directly with the part of your brain that needs stimulations. So for people that do healing and holistic healing, if you work with people with Parkinson's, for example, you have to go very slow, because few movement and they are exhausted, because it takes a long time to build dendrites and to get the synapses in there. It's a biological fact. It's like it's wood. Wood doesn't grow fast. You don't see, if you look, you look at the trees, you look at the grass, you don't see them growing. That's the pace that your nervous system grows. It's the same energy. And the same energy that brings the sap up in the trees, in all the plants, and make the plant grow, that's the same energy that grows your own nervous system. So you have to respect the pace. And in healing, you always have to walk that thin line between too much and not enough. And actually, not enough is even better, because if you can do, if you do less, you can always do a little more. But if you do too much, you get exhausted, and that has a price. That means that you're going to regress. You're going to have to stop for a while, and that's not so good. So especially when you work with the nervous system, you work with learning, for example, you learn a new language, you learn a new piece of machinery, whatever. Take your time. You have to respect the biological facts of the learning process. And the learning process requires you to create more synapses in your brain. And that takes time. It cannot just happen just like that. You have to sleep over it, because those synapses happen mostly, they grow at night. And daytime, you learn something, you have to concentrate. That means the neurons are too far, they don't connect yet. You have to build the synapse in there, so you grow the dendrites. And so when there's no good connection, it takes concentration. And then all of a sudden, puff, the synapse is there. And you don't need to think about it, it just happens. All of a sudden, you drive, you shift gear and all that. You don't even have to remember what to do. It's an extension of your body. You know how to do it. So that's the biological facts about learning and rational thinking, about calculation, is that it's coming from the stimulation of the front lobe of the cerebral cortex in there. And it takes effort. It takes effort to think. It takes effort to understand. You have to analyze. You have to test with your own belief system to see where it fits. If it doesn't fit, it's going to take extra amount of work to reestablish the place in there so that a new idea can fit in. It can be worked out with the whole system. So, you know, I know that in a lot of tradition, a lot of meditation and spiritual tradition, people have been told that don't think so much, right? It's not the thinking that's the problem. It's that it's the too much, because we don't have enough mental energy to feed all the intelligence all the same time. And because as the Westerners, we learn to think so much, that means everything else we do less. We're less connected with ancestral behavior. We're less connected with what is really good in life. We forget what's going on in the present, and we forget about ourselves. So all the feelings, all the emotional, all that, everything is put in the back burner. As soon as, like right now, listening to me, we forget everything. We forget everything else. And that's okay, again. And that's, you don't want to give it up. We just want to be able to shift energy to another intelligence when it is needed, instead of trying to look at the intelligence and trying to understand it and make it work from an analytic perspective, which is a big problem we have in psychology because of not respecting emotions if they're not understood. So we're going to get into that eventually once we get more into meta. But right now, if there is any questions about the nature of the wood intelligence.
I do have a question. Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you for this. So it's very fascinating, got the list in the booklet underneath for the wood element about the reading and speaking and entertainment and all those things. So when we do all those things, that actually engages the wood element, that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
So are you saying that read less and all of those things to do less of those, because then no, that's not what you're saying.
No.
Can you just
No, actually I do the reverse. I say we need to understand better. We need to keep cultivating rational thinking, but we don't want to let the other intelligences behind. Okay, that's most important, because we always could need rational thinking. I mean, that's where consciousness, most of our consciousness is. Be able to have that detachment, to be able to step back and contemplate and see what's going on. I mean, that's the nature of human thinking, human intelligence. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I'm very relieved.
Good. And so that we're saying, even though a lot of traditions they try to tell you stop thinking, don't do that.
Good, thank you.
Just put some energy in the other intelligences also. For example, talking about reading, it's okay to understand what you read, But staying connected with how you feel about what you read is very important. Does that feel right? Does that resonate with your, not what you believe in, but your, we call your ethical system? Rational thinking doesn't have a sense of ethic. That's why it needs laws. We have to write laws and in order to have a system of behavior coming from rational thinking. But if you move your energy from the rational thinking to emotional intelligence, that takes to bring more to here. They say, well, yes, that law is important. Yes, we need to protect this and that for this and that. But is it really ethical for other people, for everyone? This might be good for that kind of that party, but could be very detrimental for another. So nothing wrong with laws, again, but it's very tricky. You have to be able to connect with the feelings and with the mental part of the mind. So that's why that differentiation becomes very critical here. From rational thinking, from wood perspective, okay, yeah, that's the law, it's going to be respected. That's why we make one. And we made that law for good reason. But now we need to temper that law according to what really is going on. Because maybe that law is not ethical for everyone. Someone might be victim of it. So that's why we need judges, because if we just were to respect only the laws, then we don't need judges. Either you follow the law or you don't, and boom, that's it. It's cut dry. No, there's a big thing in between, big gap in between what is right and what feels right. And when you get it in yourself, when you get in yourself connected with that mental aspect and emotional aspect at the same time, then you're splitting your mental energy within you, we call the soul axis. And that's why I choose that landscape behind me. On my right here, you have the trees. And you have a whole landscape behind me. There is some trees on the left, but if you pay attention, you see more of the landscape, the beauty of the sky, the clouds, and even more attention. Look at this here. Here you have wires that conduct electricity or whatever, telephone pole or something. That's metal. And the metal is not only on the wire. The metal is actually everywhere. And that's what creates the beauty, that's what creates the shape. That's what fills up. That's the contact, the surface contact that delineates everything. Again, that's where beauty is created. That's metal. So yes, you have the function of the trees. You have that brings oxygen to the to the landscape here. You have the clouds that's going to bring the rain. You have the sky, but there is the whole dimension, the whole axis of wood metal right there, and the same way it is also in our cells. So in our cells, yes, we have the nervous system, and we talk about the brain, and allow that thinking, and allow but within the brain, in order for the brain to be able to manifest that intelligence, you have to have cables. You have to have metal. You have to have conduction, and all the ideas, they have a shape. So anything, in order to be perceived, understood, and accepted, any idea has a shape. And we call the elegance of an idea. And that's a mental aspect. That's a metal aspect of the thinking process. And the same way that trees have a shape, even the leaves have shapes. That's the metal aspect. Shape expresses feelings. If you go in your backyard and your garden, the shape of the plant is going to tell you if they need being watered or not. Yeah. So a life force, that's how it is manifested. Is how much energy you share between the wood and the metal. That's what creates the balance and the beauty of a landscape, your inner landscape. So moving from wood to metal. So wood is about rational thinking. It's about the belief system. So really we call mental intelligence. Let me have a little drink here. Getting in touch with how I feel. Where thinking, calculation, and the wood intelligence that gives you actually a consciousness and the vision, the ability to see. And when you understand something, you say, oh, I see. You perceive in a very precisely mental way a concept or something. And then we move to metal intelligence, which requires a completely different infrastructure biologically in yourself, in your body. And it doesn't come so much from the prefrontal part of your brain and those frontal lobes. It comes from the activation of completely different part of your anatomy. Where is that coming from? It's lower. It comes with your breath. If you think and try to understand that's the way you do now, check your breath. You're holding your breath. In order to think, you have to hold your breath. But if you just ask yourself, how do I feel? Do I need to go to the bathroom? You have to breathe. Because when you think you're caught up into like learning right now, you can't afford to learn to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes. So you're going to repress it. And the only way to repress the way you feel is to think. So if your energy goes into wood, you have less metal. But if you allow yourself to ask yourself how you feel, all of a sudden you have less rational thinking. And again, from again very Western way of to look at things, there's nothing wrong. Okay, there's nothing to correct. Is to be able to differentiate and to have more choices. So you know that yes, you need energy into rational thinking, calculation, and understanding at the mental level. But from time to time, you need to take a breath. You say, okay, all this is all good, very satisfying mentally, but how do I feel about it? How can I make it beautiful? How can I make it more, acceptable, more socially, basically? Because metal intelligence is social intelligence. And social intelligence means communicating with others. That's through your breath, that's your reflection, that's your shape. And that communication you do with others, you actually start with yourself. It's crowded in there. At least 5 intelligences to deal with already. There's nothing to do with schizophrenia here. It's just being clearly differentiated. That is the way you think and the way you feel. 2 very different dimensions. It's completely different fields. So what are the activities that you get involved when you worked with your emotional intelligence with metal? Well, everything that allows you to change your mood. Like listening to music. It's not only changing the mood, it's also validating the mood. And when you're looking for a piece of music, What do I feel like listening now? Usually it's a piece of music that reflects exactly the way you feel. If you're happy, you're going to want something happy. If you're kind of sad, you're going to have something that's going to help to, what do you call it, bring that thing out, to be able to express it, and to connect with it. So listening to music is the most abstract of all the arts, but at the same time, it's the most emotional. Cannot escape music. The music resonates and connects with your soul directly. So anything connected with music enhances your meta intelligence. So playing a musical instrument is going to involve both wood and metal, because you have to learn. You have to exercise your nervous system in order to be able to play it the way you feel like playing the piece. And that's one of the best exercise to work out those two intelligence to cooperate together, to be able to learn to play the way you feel, and really to connect, to be able to learn an instrument, so you'll be able to resonate, make the instrument resonate to your feelings. Is there a question here? I hear some back noise.
No, I was just, that
Okay.
must have been me. I was trying to screen share. I think it maybe worked. Yeah, it did. Okay.
Okay.
I was sharing that, the
Okay.
activities sheet.
Okay, cool. All right. And we were talking about reading earlier, right? So when you read also, even if you don't have a musical ear, because not everyone does, you still you're going to be able to connect with feelings without needing to have music. What is the music of writing? It's called poetry. That's the difference between what they call it, the prose and poetry. When you write, it's descriptive, and you write your shopping list or whatever. Not much poetry in there, but there is a way to put poetry even into a shopping list. You have to shape your shopping list not only about how it's practical, and that's more earth intelligence, but also anything will make it beautiful, anything would enhance, and that would add the social aspect in there, especially if you do the shopping list according to how you're going to relate to people. I go into a store, so maybe I can get something for someone I know, for a neighbor, for a friend, and that could go there, or whatever. You're connecting with the social aspects, the social dimension. So anything that connects with those things, and what we do without most of the time is not even conscious, is following trends. Trends, say la mode in French. It's like all of a sudden people start to do things a certain way, and you follow it, or you don't, or you react to it. But that's, again, it's an emotional reaction. Most of the time, we don't need to understand why. We just feel like doing it, and that responds to emotional state. So anything that connects with the relationship you have with others, and that's called appearance. So anything connected with grooming, with your aspects, it's not only for yourself. Yes, there is that inner metal, and you feel like you feel good about yourself. That's the most important. But be able to do in a way that's so you are respected, but also you respect others. To be clean, to be presentable, especially now with the COVID or that, you need to wear a mask or that. Don't do that so much because it has to fit your belief system. You do it by respect of others. even if you don't believe in the utility of the mask, or especially the way it's used, without any disinfectant in there and everything. Oh, that's not counterproductive, and I need to get air and oxygen. Okay, fine. But in a crowd, you want to be, you want to respect people, and you don't want to offend people. So you have to conform to trends in order to not to create a dissonance. Actually, it's like you're part of an orchestra. If I don't want to play that piece, and while the people play a piece, you play another, so you're out of tune, basically. So that's about meta intelligence. How to create an environment that resonates at the same frequency, basically, or is at least harmonious. Doesn't mean that you don't respect your belief system. No, you still do. I mean, I go out, I know that, yes, my mask is useful only if I put some good disinfectant in there, I put some cologne, I put some essential oil. Yes, I have a useful mask. And you know that people around you not gonna do that. But that's okay, they still wear a mask. Okay, so that's fine. And maybe you don't even believe that there is a viruses around, so you feel like you don't need a mask. But still, you have to wear the mask by respect, for a relationship thing. And that's it. It's not rational, but that really connects with what we call meta intelligence. And of course, as Westerners, you're going to have to give yourself good reasons. But true reasons is appearance. Right now, it's something beautiful happening with those masks. It's like everyone's making their own now. It becomes like artwork. Everyone's going to do the colors, or it's like it becomes like a trendy kind of thing. That's a very nice aspect. So there's all kind of things like that doesn't need to follow like a logic, rational thinking, or a function that's understood, but is part of harmonizing, is part of creating something that contributes to the beauty of the landscape. Okay? Any questions about that? Because that's a very important part about mental intelligence, before I go a little deeper into the subject.
Olivier was asking about dream. When you dream, do you have connections between metal and wood?
Of course. Yeah. And it is going to be less wood, of course, because that's the very nature of dream is abstract, very abstract. And eventually we're going to get to the practice when we read abstraction. It's about the reading, really working with the translation of dreams. And for that, you need rational thinking. But you need a form of rational thinking that really respects the feelings, because especially the dream we want to work out are the dreams that are connected with your healing process. And so to get a more consciousness into them, but at the same time, respecting the abstract dimension of them. So yes, you have both wood and metal in there. And much more. But again, I want to restrict the dream work to the healing process. So mostly metal. Yeah. Yes? No more questions?
I have another question regarding this, what you just mentioned, and I would be to find out whether, so what you mentioned about the masks, that how wonderful to see all the creativity around masks. And I don't want to go into the details, but actually I find that quite concerning. So is it because of my rational thinking? Is it not enough balance between the metal and the wood? but I find it concerning that there's all this creativity around it. So
Yes, there's nothing wrong about concerns, because again, there is a very wide spectrum of consideration here to look at. There is a part of me that really hates it, even. You know, or come people conforming like this all the time, you know, all this. No, it's okay. Again, be able to differentiate, you know, your mind is to be able to respect the fact that you don't understand something, or that you understand something that doesn't fit, the fact that we need a mask, and the other intelligence that tells you it's okay to be polite. It's okay to, you know, maybe they cannot get it, you know, they cannot understand the way I understand it. It's not their fault. It's just, I mean, you know, I mean, if you think some people are stupid, it's not their fault. They don't know better, right? Doesn't prevent you to have a relationship with them. Doesn't prevent you from sharing your life. So there is a level of respect that has to be established there. And especially if you think that you know better, then you have to connect better instead of reacting, which is the underdeveloped way of relationship, meaning that that's a lack of mental intelligence to have to protest systematically. Oh, I don't believe in this, therefore I won't do it. To be stuck into your position and preventing really a connection, right? Creating a barrier of communication instead. No, we're talking here about the social intelligence. Be able to relate and to exist within a field that doesn't fit your belief system. And that's where we have really created the big problem in our Western civilization, because we are really stuck in that position there. It's like we have a hard time accepting emotionally something that we don't understand. I tell you what, we don't understand anything emotionally because there's nothing to understand. It's not rational. Okay, so it's most important to really differentiate both and respect both. That's the way I think on the tree side, and that's the way I feel on the landscape side and metal side. There's nothing wrong. It's just the way it is. And both have to be respected. It doesn't mean that you disrespect your belief system because you're wearing a mask when you don't believe in it. No, you just choose to be polite. That's different. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong either way. Yeah, it's all right. Everything is right. There's nothing wrong about being able to see there's something that's not acceptable at the feeling level, and something that you don't understand. Then we have both together. I cannot cooperate with that. So what you do, you have to step out of the field, but you cannot remain in the field and react the same way. Because why? Because you're becoming a victim. It's again the basic strategy. We're here to enjoy life. So anything that prevents you to enjoy life, you have to cope with it. And that's what we are here for. What prevents us from enjoying life is this negative interaction between intelligences, not accepting one aspect that denies the other, when actually there's nothing wrong. It's just wood and metal. And you need both. That works? I know it's hard because it goes against the way we learn to function at the mental level as a civilization entirely, as a especially ethnic group, in terms of being a white Westerner, you know, a North European origin. It's all about shoulds. It's all about correcting things. So and always means never happy with anything. Oh, and it's good, you know, if you it's about evolving, but evolving in what direction? You know, it's we lost perspective because we have only one perspective, which is the wood perspective. That's what we need to change. We need to give perspective to every intelligence. So I mean, respecting every part of consciousness. That work? I have to check what you're doing with time. It's 1 hour already. Over. Yeah. So we believe, you know, we're going to spend time on this because we're creating the mental infrastructure to accept and be able to use it. And that's why, for me, in terms of, especially for those classes, what's important is practice. And that's what we're doing right now, is to juggle with the mind and to develop those synapses that eventually you're going to understand. But the understanding part is going to become like a side effect of your practice, which is the reverse of what we learn to do, which is trying to learn to do something rationally before we can do it. And you know what? This is not possible. And that's why your civilization is doing so poorly. Yeah. So we need to change. We need to change that. And to change that, we have to really differentiate our minds. We need to really learn to switch the energy from one part of the mind to another and be able to respect every single one instead of living in constant internal conflict. Because that's the conflict we bring out into the outer world. It's a conflict we already have inside. That works?
Okay. Yeah. It seems like, yeah, it's that, that interplay between the wood and the metal for people, like, you know, with the mask you're saying, and, you know, people have the strong emotions about it. So then, and the mind is there to, you know, it helps to validate the emotions, but also it kind of tries to find a reason behind the emotion.
Exactly.
Well, you know, start following, making up stories or finding something on YouTube that, like, oh yeah, that's why I feel that way.
Yes. But hey, remember, we have 3 others intelligences behind there. Okay, we're gonna get there eventually with the mask. About the mask.
Okay.
But we still have a lot of to do with metal here, with the biological connection with the infrastructure here. So we're talking about music, we're talking about poetry, we're talking about cosmetics, you know, grooming and appearance and stuff like that. And we even got into dreams already. But what is the biological part of the body that connects with all that? Yes, we talked about the breath, and because that's your really inner, that's the inner core and the inner structure with your diaphragm, your lungs, the way you breathe, that gives you shape. But what gives you shape, that makes you part of that landscape that's all around you. It's like gives the beauty of the trees. You're part of the landscape. You're part of that beauty also. So that's your skin. The skin that gives you the shape. That's why cosmetic. That's why, you know, when the metal, the first use of metal, no, it's not weapons. It's only you have to be really Westerner to think that. No, it's jewelry. Jewelry. Gold. Wearing gold because it always shines. Gold, you never need to clean it. It's always shiny. So, I mean, they find gold coins at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. You know, recently, that's been there for thousands of years. Still shiny. Doesn't get corroded. And that's how they discover it. You know, there's something shining under there. It's gold. So the first use of metal has been for jewelry, appearance. And even when they work with weapons, and for men especially, you know, most of weapons people carry around is not to defend or to fight. It's to look good. Look, the uniforms, you know, okay, you have the uniform of military, yes, then it's, you know, there is a function there, but how about the uniform of the academic, you know, the academician, the academic, they have a sword. And that sword is nothing to do with fights. Those people don't know how to fight. They won't be able to use it. No, it represents, it has to be elegant. It has to be, it makes you look good. And that sword, and especially knives in all around the world, and for manhood especially, it's a representative of the rectitude of your soul. In the old time samurai, you know, Japanese ways of chivalry, you know, we have in the West, it connects with feelings, with deep feelings. Yeah? They say the katana and the sword, the best of the sword, the best of the katanas, never leave his sheaths, and never you. And it's the sharpest, it's the best blades ever, but you don't use it for fighting. It represents basically the rectitude of your soul. So it has to be clean, it has to be shiny, you know, no blood on it. Yeah. So again, metal, and it's not something that's really rational, but so important. It's your social status. Present like right now in the West, your social status is not you don't carry a sword or a weapon, hopefully. It's your car. And now you can think that, yeah, a car is a missile. It can be dangerous. Yes, but you don't use it for that. You use it to show off. I have that expensive car, so it's the social status. It gives you a social position. It gives you it has to be shiny. So the color, you know, everything is revealing in terms of the way you feel, the way you are as a person. Yeah, metal. So the skin, and the property of the skin is a third lung, by the way. You breathe and you smell, and the smell is in French the same word, sentir. You smell, you sentir, and you touch, you sens, you sense, sensing, touching. To be in touch, feeling, that's metal. And the touch is a way of communication that's much more elaborate than any kind of sophisticated vocabulary. And when you run out of word, especially at the emotional level, then you touch. And I know now it's COVID, they don't want to touch. That's a big, the problem is how you communicate your feelings, especially with a mask on. So, and that's why creates a very awkward situation there, especially for people that are used to touch when they talk. Because what they talk is not so much about what you say, it's how you say it, how you communicate the feelings behind it. And so be able to talk and not touch, meaning that you have to express your feelings in different ways. So maybe in your accent and the way your intonation, the way and the music of your language gets more into play there, which is more the meta aspect of expression and communication. Does that work? So touch and the surface contact, and the surface contact of your emotional landscape that you communicate with others through your tone and through the way you feel, the way you move your body, the way you express it, the shape of things. That's mental intelligence. That work? So questions about metal before we move to other. Yeah? Not even a stupid question. I love those. Those are my favorite. Don't hold back. Yeah, I know it takes reflection because we're learning, so that's okay. We're gonna go back, don't worry. So basically, this touch practice is at the end of the book, the booklets, and the whole booklet is about the development of what's is evolved, in order to get to do that. So
Emily, do you have a question? About respiration.
Yes.
To connect to the metal force, you've said that we need to do breathing well.
Oh, no. It's not about breathing well. It's to pay attention to your breath. Okay, that's a very good question. Okay, let me answer that. It's not about breathing well. Because what does that mean, breathing well? Breathing well means breathing from a wood perspective, meaning that you have a should in there. The way we should breathe, meaning it's out of reality. We don't breathe the way we should. We breathe the way we do. That's different. And I tell you what, the way you breathe right now is perfect. Doesn't matter how little you breathe. You breathe perfectly according to the way you feel, or you want to feel, or you especially don't want to feel. Right now, you're watching me talking to you, try to understand something. You're going to hold your breath. That's normal. So you breathe perfectly already. Now, after the show, you go back to, you're going to breathe or remember that you'll be holding yourself. You need to go to the bathroom, or you need to drink, you need to pay attention to your needs. Then your breath is going to increase according to the need of the moment. So there is nothing wrong with the way we breathe all the time. We breathe perfectly according to the needs of the moment. And that choice is made from a central intelligence that we're going to get at the end. It's earth intelligence. It's the body's wisdom that's going to have to choose to balance and to distribute the right amount of energy to each intelligence according to what's going on right here, right now. So that's earth intelligence right there. So the third one, we're going to get after water, after even fire. We're going to get to the end to really put everything together. But yeah, again, so be careful. Anytime you have a should, that means you're not accepting what's going on, and you put yourself in conflict with what is. And it's very hard because, that's basically how we've been educated. Our whole life is based on shoulds. So that means you're never satisfied. You never enjoy life for what it is, because it should be different. And we really have to connect with the fact that there's nothing wrong with what is. And yes, it can be better, but we're working on it. Okay, it's a process. It's a process that's going on right here, right now, in the present. So it's not something that we want to invest all our energy in. It's okay to be conscious. It's okay to be aware, but it's not okay to be ruled by it. Again, to be able to have more control over your existence instead of your existence controlling you. Does that answer the question?
Emily, do you want to ask? You can ask in French too.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Ma connexion, elle n'est pas très bonne, donc si jamais ça marche pas, tu me dis.
Oui, ça va pour le moment.
Et c'était une question, tu sais, quand on travaille en Chine de sang,
Oui.
et qu'on essaye quand même d'amener la respiration dans le dos.
Oui. Alors,
Donc,
so the question is, when we give a treatment, in Shin-San treatment, we try to get the breath toward the back. So we're changing the breath. But that's a treatment. So basically, when I direct the breath on my clients toward their back, is to be able to expand their mental intelligence at the structural level, meaning that we're creating the infrastructure for the intelligence to develop, to be able to expand a breath that's not usual. So that's an exercise, and that's different. So meaning that, yes, if that person don't do anything, that person breathes perfectly according to the way they are. But if they come here for a treatment, that means something in there that needs to be changed. For that person to change, we have to direct that person into something that's not usual. So that's the reason why. We call therapy. We work in a way to exercise and to change the pattern of habit that brings the pathological factor and keep it in place. So that takes work. And the work, number one, again, the key, the lock and key of the healing process is the breath. It is mental. And that's the whole second book about emotional healing. Yeah. That works?
Ouais, merci. Oui, c'est plus clair en fait. C'est que dans le traitement, en fait, on sollicite cette intelligence émotionnelle qui souvent est mise de côté ou en tout cas pas écoutée, quoi.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like when we have a systematic and the true holistic approach to healing, we connect basically with the emotional structure, with the emotional pattern that creates a pathology. So like we have to step out of the habits of mechanically and looking for the building blocks that creates the pathology, which is the allopathic way of doing it. From a holistic perspective, we look at the whole thing. And the whole thing means the whole emotional landscape, the whole structure. And the number one thing, in order to bring any change in there, we need to get a person aware that's what that person does in order to be able to change it. So no awareness, no emotional awareness possible if the breath remains the same. Because again, the shape of the breath is to keep the statu quo at the emotional level in there. So we need to change the statu quo, we need to evolve beyond the limits of the emotional restriction we put ourselves in. Therefore, we need to teach the body that there are different ways, other ways of breathing. There are more choices. In order for the mind to realize there is more choices in terms of emotional emotional structure. It's like I have no choice but to feel that way. Of course, if you keep breathing that way, you won't. But if you have to change the way you breathe, have a different perspective on your emotions, then everything changes. You open a complete potential of opportunities and possibilities there. That's the very nature of healing. Very good. Okay, that's very important questions. All right. Yeah? No other questions? I continue? We're going to go back. Don't worry about it. And, if you have a question that goes back to wood and whatever, we're going to always go back. But I'd like to cover a little more today. How much time we have? Yeah, time is going fast. So, moving to water, because the first question this morning was about the water, about this ancestral issues and all that. So, what is water intelligence? And where it's coming from in terms of our biology, in terms of our infrastructure that allows that water intelligence to manifest. What kind of activities can we do to be more aware of that water intelligence and to develop the consciousness of it? So be able to have consciousness, water consciousness. So what is water consciousness? How does it manifest itself? So we know that wood consciousness is belief system, is knowledge, it's thinking. Metal consciousness is emotional consciousness, social intelligence. What is water consciousness? Water is so big. We're made mostly of water. And that intelligence is so immediate, and it's right here in front of our face. It's so immediate we don't see it. It's everything we do by habit. It's consciousness of what is it that you do by habit, by tradition. And so immediate is that immediate intelligence has a name. It's called instinct. Anything we do by instinct means we're not aware we're doing. You breathe by instinct. You have so many things. Everything works by instinct in the body. Even the way you walk. You think that you walk consciously because you know how to put your feet in front of you and all that. Yes. But that walk has a shape already. So deeply influenced by metal. Because it reflects the way you feel. It's like your breath, the extension of your breath. Physiologically, for practitioners, you have the diaphragm that gives you your psychological profile through the way you breathe, basically. And you have the attachment of the diaphragm that goes on the spine, on the lumbar vertebrae. And I share the same attachment with your psoas muscles, which are the muscle of your walk. So basically, the same way you breathe according to the way you feel, you walk also exactly the way you feel. Both your breath and your walk are holding your psychological profile. Before, people will be able to recognize you in the street from a distance without seeing your face, just by the way you move, the way you walk. People are more auditory, you're going to recognize your step. Because your step sounds differently than another step. So, yes, the way, that everything that comes by habit is so deep, like water. Water is very deep. So what has the most depth in yourself is the water origin, and that goes beyond, way beyond yourself. You didn't walk like that because you learned to walk like that. You walk like that because you cannot help it. And the way we walk, the way we move, is very personal, but there is someone in your bloodline that worked exactly the same way, that breathed the same way, that felt the same way. And so basically, you are bringing out all your ancestral issues. You're bringing out all the past. And that's your water coming to your earth. The water of the past, the water coming out of the mountains, the water that coming out of the glaciers, and that go down into the river directed by Earth in your body right here, right now. So that water intelligence is extremely powerful. Basically, most of our behavior is coming out of habit. It's not only the walk. Walk is just like one of the basic things, but everything else is coming like that. Yes, it comes out, water feeds, woods, the way you think. The water feeds, your earth, so water goes everywhere. So be able to understand that is that all behavior is not only understood from wood, it's not only what you, the way you feel, but the deepest of the feelings is coming from pattern of habits that's much older than who you are. So that kind of understanding is very hard to get for Westerners because it's not understandable. No amount of explanation is going to give you the whole of the reality of the power of water. And even the reality, the physical reality of water is very difficult to get. Now, we don't understand water. And some people say, oh yeah, it's so simple, H2O. Yeah, but H2O, two molecules of hydrogen, one molecule of oxygen. Think about it. Use your thoughts for that. Those are gases. You don't get a body of liquid the way water looks like with that. It's not, it's it goes against the logic. Water shouldn't look like that. Now there's so much research that's made on water. It's very, very interesting. So Google it, get it to the internet and check out, study water. And you're going to see that at the strict physical level, water is not understood. The physics of liquid is it's a science. It's the dynamics of liquids, and it requires calculations and work that's tremendous. And the physics of the circulation of liquid is very complex, and that's why people go crazy with the pipes in the house, because water doesn't circulate the way it should. Yeah? And it has to be respected. If you don't, you get all kind of problems and noises and vibrations and not circulating the right way and all that. It's very, very complex. Not understandable. So at the strict physical level, everything is based on anomalies. Anomalies, why? Because it doesn't fit the current belief system of the laws of physics. The way the ice, when we talk about crystallization of water, everything that crystallizes in the universe contracts and densifies. But no, water expands. How do we explain that? We don't know. And maybe one day we would, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that if ice contracted and we're getting denser, it wouldn't be able to float. And life wouldn't be possible. So there is only one explanation really to justify all those anomalies, is because. That's it. It's because water. And it's not to be water H2O. It's the power that allows H2O to have that kind of behavior. It's what rules water. That's why we write, capital W, uppercase W. It's not water H2O. It's the power that allows water to be the way it is. And that power has that intelligence. The intelligence of water is the memory of life. So we talk about memory of life, we talk about past lives, we talk about ancestral issues, we talk, everything. We've been trying to answer, the first question this morning about what are those ancestral issues is everything that connects with water. And again, water is everywhere. It's suspended as air, vapor molecules in the air. It's 90% of your own body. It's what brings life to existence. And to have life into existence, it has to be manifested at the physical level into memory of life. So we thought, as Westerners, that the answer was DNA and the genome. And yes, of course, we hold a lot of memory in the genome, but not enough to explain everything. There's much more than that. It's not only the chromosomes and the genes we carry at the cellular level, but everything that water is about is beyond H2O. So all pattern of habits, so close right here, we don't know. We just do it because it's instinctive, and instinct is too fast to be caught up by thoughts. We call reflexes. What are reflexes? It's pattern of behavior that don't require thoughts in order to manifest. Meaning that it's something that has to be recorded deep enough in your nervous system to be able to be available instantly, faster than thoughts. So instinctive behavior. And there's nothing wrong with it, of course, because being Westerners say, okay, how can we correct that? There's nothing to correct, okay? There's nothing wrong. Fortunately, we have instinct. Fortunately, we don't need to understand how, to walk, to breathe, to have those instinctual functions we have. That's taking over. It's called autonomic. We work on its own. So a completely different kind of structure that holds intelligence here. And the structure of water, again, is not understood. There is a part of the structure that's crystallized, so it's not running, but it's part of our past. It's our bones. It's crystallized in the bones. So I will talk about the bones of the ancestors. Thanks God, it's not available. So we don't behave exactly and all the time the way our ancestors always did. And by the way, we have so many ancestors, so many different kind of behavior, so many different pattern of habits. I mean, there's no way, that that's not useful. The water that's useful is the water that's running right here, right now in your body. And the running water is living water. Yes, it's coming from the past, it's coming from the melting ice in the mountains, from the glaciers, but it's running under your bridge right here, right now. And that's your body. So nothing wrong with pattern of habits that's older than what you are, but making sure those are useful. So be able to recognize that part of behavior, that part of thinking, and that structure of thinking, and that those reflexes we have, those habits, mental habits we have, are they useful? Are they productive? So be able to recognize them. And it's very hard to recognize something that's right on your face like that because you don't see it. It's so used to it. So how do you recognize them? Well, you don't. That's a very important aspect to know about your water intelligence, is that you don't know. But everyone else does. And that's how it is indispensable for everyone to connect with others. And that's what that, again, using the meta intelligence. Everything you do by habit, you don't know you're doing because so much of habit. But everyone around you knows that's your habit. That's you. That's how you're being recognized. It's what you do all the time. So be able to learn about yourself through the eyes of others. And that's very difficult. It's not something you learn at school. It's not something that you've been taught by your parents. It's not something that is part of our Western way of knowing. It's not part of really of our awareness. It's the kind of intelligence that we need to learn as a reaction to others. And unfortunately, and those, all this pattern of habits we don't know about, those are the ones that need healing. And that's what's hard. And that's why, again, we cannot heal something without changing it. And we cannot change something without knowing we need to change. So consciousness is to come as a reflection from that intelligence. And that water intelligence, again, connects with all the pattern of habits that usually brings internal reaction and internal conflicts within ourselves. That creates all the pathologies. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, because again, we get sick in order to heal. And when we heal, we change, we grow, we outgrow the situation. So that again, second booklets, we have always connecting with why we get sick. It's not because there's something called the evil thing, no, it's because it's a need. Because if you didn't get sick, we need to change. Why change? I feel happy the way I am, right? But because you don't know what you're doing, the people around you suffer from it. And that's how, we know, there is reactions. From that reaction, when I'm aware of it, I'm not happy. So in order for me to enjoy life again, I have to adjust my behavior with others so I can share happiness with them instead of being separated and being part of the reaction of conflict. Okay, I've been saying a lot here about water, so let's answer some questions.
Pamela, would you like to ask? We can't hear you.
You have to unmute.
Try again, or no?
Maybe on chat, maybe write it down then.
Yeah, she says, as we change our emotional signature and capacity to feel perhaps more comfortable and safe in the world, do the reflexes that were created through trauma just lie dormant when we stop activating those responses?
Okay, there's many things in that question. Can you repeat a little bit? Yeah, go ahead.
As we change our emotional signature and capacity to feel more comfortable and safe in the world,
yes,
do the reflexes that were created through trauma lie dormant when we stop activating those responses?
It's kind of question that requires a specific answer, but unfortunately, it's not so straight. It's not so direct. Yes, of course, as soon as you healed, you changed. Therefore, your vibration, the tune, the frequency that's around that emotional issue has changed. So you fit differently in your environment. That also creates a reaction. And that's a difficult part of the healing process, is that as a personal level already, it's hard enough to change, and to accept that you're going to be different also is very hard to get, because you're not predictable any longer. So that's already at the personal level. But imagine at the social level, you're not going to be recognizable. You're not going to be able to be predicted. You're not the same. So you're not going to be accepted the same way. It's not, see, I know I'm a little bit on the side of the questions, but that's the crucial part. When you change emotionally, you change the aspect, you change actually your surface contact with the rest of the universe around you. So either that surface contact adapts to your changes, or it's going to react even more. It creates biggest differences. And there's nothing wrong, again, because as yourself is able to change, it means you have to afford the change. So you have the strength to be able to accept those differences and be able to adapt your behavior and your life situation accordingly. I'm not sure if I answered the question. If you can have a more specific part of that question, like, again, answer maybe more precisely.
I believe she's typing in something.
Okay.
Yeah, you answered quite well, actually.
Oh, good. I'm amazed on this a Zoom class, can communicate at such a deep level. And I'm very surprised, but hey, that's work. That's fantastic. Yes. Very good.
I think she's still typing now.
Okay.
Do 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 do. I have a conversation arising inside me about the contentment and desire to grow.
Yes. But that's what healing is about. Healing, again, from a holistic perspective, is not so much to try to get rid of a symptom, but to use that symptom to grow as a person. And the symptom is actually a guide. So you get to that place of interest about yourself. And then you start to have a better communication between rational thinking and your feelings together. And be able to have that, it's precious, that indispensable interaction between those two intelligences that creates actually your soul, is to have a rational thinking that validates feelings instead of criticizing them. Because that's where the biggest civilization, that's one of the biggest conflicts we have. Like, we don't accept either the way we think at the emotional level, or we don't accept the way we feel at the emotional level from rational thinking. So we need to switch that behavior to systematic support. And that's that's something we're going to go back, because what we were doing on the first the first booklet, working with the differentiation of the mind, is to be able to change internal conflict into self-support. So instead of having a mind that's always about shoulds, about looking after something that doesn't exist, is to actually looking, stepping back and taking a contemplative perspective approach of accepting what is. That's the way I feel. It's not a matter of choice. I cannot choose my feeling the way I can choose my thoughts, but that's the way it is. And if I feel that way, it must be for good reasons. I don't need to understand them. I wouldn't feel that way without reasons. So be able to accept the fact that it doesn't matter how bad we feel. We need to accept the way we do and validate it. This is the way I feel. And that's the first step into the healing process. Instead of being attached to the way I should and not to accept the fact the way I do feel, because always thinking that eventually I be feeling the way I should. No, there's no such thing. It's the way you feel and the way you think, two different things. So you thinking about validating, wow, that's the way I feel. Interesting. It doesn't matter how painful and how not acceptable it is to your belief system. Because without that step, there's no change possible. As soon as you allow yourself to accept the way you feel, then you already start to change. You are deep inside the healing process already. But the healing process cannot even be started without that step. That works? So it's the same thing from the water perspective. There is a pattern of behavior, there is reflexes, there is a pattern of habits that from your rational thinking is shouldn't. I shouldn't be doing this. I know better. It's like, I don't like this. I don't like this kind of habit. But somehow, every time I am in this situation, I cannot help but behave that way. When someone look at me a certain way, I feel like I need to hide. I feel like a coward or ugly, how bad I feel. But hey, I cannot help it to feel that way. So instead of shoulds, I should be a superhero, I should be a winner, I should. No. In order to be able to outgrow that pattern of habit, you have first to be able to accept the fact that you have the habit without shoulds behind. That's the way I react under such situation. How interesting. It's not about criticizing, even if you don't accept it. It's like, wow, it's to be able to recognize it and validate it. If I behave that way, it's probably for a good reason. And that reason is good. It might not be so good for me right here in the present, but somehow it's a pattern of habit that's been taught to my system. And I don't learn anything without a good reason. So basically, there's a pattern to be unlearned. It's not to be unlearned because the information is always going to be there. It's to be outgrown. Give yourself a different choice. Yes, maybe I should be doing this instead, but somehow, right here, right now, I can't. So what can I do right here, right now, in order to allow myself to react differently next time? And that's it. You are in the healing field. Giving yourself, opening the potential for different things, for different outcome, different reaction. And it's going to take stumbling. It's going to take hesitation. It's going to take falling. And that's part of the learning process. That's normal. It's not going to happen all of a sudden. Changing water is the most difficult thing. You're getting that muddy water from the past and you want to drink. You're thirsty and you cannot drink that water. So you have to filtering out. You need to acidize it. You need to do something so it becomes not only potable, not only like drinkable, it has to feel good. It has to be enjoyable. It has to be refreshing. And water is designed to be like that already. You have to get yourself into the natural function of healing that allows that water to be transformed naturally. That's what water does all the time. It evaporates. It doesn't matter how dirty the mud is, going to come back as clean rain all the time. we need to connect with a natural function in the body that allows us to have clean rain, not acid rain like now. Because our water is going to go through all that pollution, all that conditioning, all that, yeah. So learning to filter out properly our water.
Gilles.
Go ahead, Jack.
Hello. This has been a beautiful talk, and through all of this, you've actually answered a very interesting question about water.
Oh, good.
Why does it float?
Okay, now get into the physics of water. Right now, there is a big discovery.
But it's not about the molecule. It's about the message.
Yes.
You see, when a pattern of behavior becomes so ingrained and so inert within, it's stiff, it's frozen.
Yeah, that's it.
In the right situation, does it come to the surface so that it can then transform and come back as rain?
Exactly. First, it has to liquefy and then evaporates.
Yes.
But you know what? It can even evaporate from the ice stage.
Thank goodness.
Thanks goodness. You don't have to understand all your behavior in order to change it. You need to recognize it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Then again, fortunately, no need to be intelligent to heal. Well, we'll be in bad shape. No, we have to know that we're already designed naturally to evolve as a human being. Therefore, we are naturally designed to heal. We just need to respect, the way we do it naturally to bring it to consciousness. And this is the consciousness that enhances the process. The same way that your consciousness of your breath makes it possible to breathe better. It's all natural. It's very simple. But for us, so difficult to understand because, again, there's nothing to understand. It's just to accept the way things are instead of always taking shoulds on top, the way we do as a Western civilization. Yeah. It's a big piece, it's not easy to get. So that's why, we have to go slow. The slower we go, the stronger the healing. And the faster it goes, paradoxically. Yeah, that's something, again, for me, the testing ground has been martial arts. You want to be fast, and you lose. Don't rush. And that's, again, the difference between when you look someone, practicing, people in group practicing on the mat, you see the advanced people, the advanced practitioners. They don't rush. Only beginners try to go fast. They lose. You take your time. And when you take your time, you have all the time. You're the center of the movement. And this, I know, from the rational thinking, it's hard to understand. You have to prove it to yourself by doing it through practice. But it's the same true in any art. That's why martial art. If you play music, if you dance, if you do, it's not about following rhythm. You have to be in the rhythm. And then the rhythm supports you. You don't have to run after it. You miss a step in the dance, hey, it's okay. The rhythm comes right back. It's going to support you. Just hold, wait for it, and it comes again. Boom. And that's it. You're in. So you're in the rhythm. It's not about following and running after it. And that's the should. I should be in the rhythm, so you run after it. No. Wait. Stay in it. And then you can dance all night without being tired. Because the rhythm supports you. It's nothing to understand. It's just the way things are. And that's what hard to. It's hard for us to get it. That works. So, oh wow, we are only 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have to cut it out. So we're going to continue next week. Yeah? So read a little bit the piece of the third booklet that I send you there, because I mean everything is there already. Most of it. After that, we'll get more into details. And it's a big piece. It's going to be like 50 pages. So it's as big as the two of the booklets put together already, even bigger. So no point. But what we're here for is to practice. So we don't need to read it. And when you read it, it's going to validate what you already do and make it more understandable. So that's what it's all about. It's the practice we do, is to have a better perspective on those intelligences and the interactions of those intelligences. Okay? So again, get questions. You can send the questions. I know I'm not being so good that sometimes I don't remember to go back to there is a blog or whatever, and everyone forgets. But email, do what you can, and to get us your questions, and then I answer the questions directly, from the media you use, and also we'll bring it to the class because everyone, is gonna benefit everyone to answer all the questions. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So anything else to talk about?
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's 3 minutes left, 3 minutes left, but.
Okay. So about next time, basically, we're going to continue what we did here in the differentiation, and especially trying to bring this consciousness about what intelligence we're using primarily in activities, and how those activities can make you more aware of your intelligences in order to have, again, better control over your life rather than life controlling you.
Excellent.
Good. There's so much to talk about in there. I mean, it's going to take, but hey, we're doing it.
Yeah, and we have some homework to do.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of, it's no regression going back to the first and second booklet because they complete each other, of course. It's the whole thing. Everything is connected. So especially for the second booklet, I mean, it's a whole dimension there about the healing process. And we went, today already, but that's why they come before that one, because they're more important. Number one, first booklet, we have to differentiate the mind and accept the fact that we have 5 intelligences that interact with each other and all that, and what they are. And that's the base. Number 2, why do we do that? Because evolving as a person, bringing more consciousness, means growing, and growing involves healing. And healing, again, is there to make us grow. And we use diseases for that. So it's not about getting rid of disease, it's to grow so we don't need to get the disease. And disease is always going to be around. But the ability to true prevention of disease is not to be pushed to get one. So again, we have to control of life instead of life controlling us. And it's always going to be possible. But again, we give ourselves better choices and more possibilities. That's second booklet. Third booklet, we're going to go deep. It's about resonances. And it's to be able to recognize those intelligence, more the resonating and behavioral levels, and eventually to be able to follow all the way to their sources and be able to connect with the power, the original power that makes those part of yourself exist. Be able to connect really to the source. So becoming sorcerers. Okay, so we have a lot to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. See you
All
next week.
right. Yes.
Thanks, Gilles.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Very
Really good. Thank you.
Very good.
Taylor.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Ciao.
See you hopefully next Friday.
Yep.
Yep.
Time, things
Inshallah.
anyway.
Time's God's willing. Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.